What's up, Internet? This is Rambling Josh, and you're watching another episode of Let's Play Arc the Lad 2. Since last time, I've done some of the things I said I would do. I sold off a bunch of my XX items. I said I was going to do a little bit of grinding, but I didn't actually end up doing that. Partly just because time, and partly because, well, grinding is boring. So I didn't do it. I'm probably going to want to do a little bit at some point because I do feel like my levels are a little bit lower than they need to be for some of the stuff that I have left to do. But time will tell. What I did do in the meantime, though, is I went to the blacksmith and there's a couple items that I leveled up, such as this dragon scale, the crescent axe, and so on and so forth. But anyways, with that said, our destination now is the Forbidden Ruins to finish off the Choco storyline. So here we are, but our destination is a little bit different this time around. Choco shows us a shortcut. So we fall all the way down, and down, and down some more. And we land in B50 of the Forbidden Ruins. Now, if you were to clear through the Forbidden Ruins through in Arc the Lad 2, it's actually easier than in Arc the Lad 1. The biggest reason is because every 10th floor is a healing floor, where you can restore your health and MP and revive your characters and such. And on B40, there's also a shortcut to the exit. So you don't have to make your way backwards from B50 all the way to the surface. You just have to go back to B40 and take the shortcut there. But we're not interested in the first 50 floors. We want to examine this throne and go down to B51. So I want to use Arc and Shanti. I think I want to use Lisa. Shanti has more health and defense, but Lisa has the Romancing Stone. So I think that's a little bit more useful for what I'm doing here. More longevity. I'll just be more careful. And aside from the two of those, I want to use Gruga, Raijin, and of course Choco. So now I'm going to treat the Forbidden Ruins pretty much the same way I did in Arc the Lad 1. And that is to say that because it's very large, even though it's not quite as much work as the first time through the Forbidden Ruins, there's a lot of stuff to clear. So I'm going to clear it and replay it in fast forward mode and commentate over it in post. So yeah, super speed mode, activate! Now, probably the biggest difference in the Sealed Ruins this time, or Forbidden Ruins rather, this time around, is just the fact that it's just not as hard. Like I mentioned how there's a healing floor every 10 floors, and that definitely helps. But probably the biggest thing is just the enemies themselves. Obviously we're starting off with green slimes, which are not a particularly big threat. But beyond that, in the first game, the enemies got gradually stronger as you go down the Forbidden Ruins. And this time around, while that's technically true, the floors do get harder, it's not true to anywhere near the same extent. The enemies that we're fighting right now are only level 50, and I don't think they get higher than level like 52, maybe 54, by the time we get to the end. The final floor is a very different story, but leading up to that is the enemies are not a threat at all, especially since at this point in the game, you should be, I think you can, I don't know if you can come to the floor 50 plus, or rather 51 plus, before the Martyr Towers. You might be able to. But whatever the case may be, by the time you get access to this area, level 50 enemies should not be a problem to you at all. Even 10 floors worth of level 50 enemies should not be an issue at all. So, yeah. One other difference that's very small is that if you finish off all of the enemies in a floor, rather than having to continue your way to the stores, the stairs rather, in battle mode, the battle just kind of ends and you walk there like a normal dungeon, which does a couple of things. For one, I personally, like, it's kind of convenient, I guess, but I kind of don't really like it. I prefer having just the battle mode continue and keep the tension up. And probably the biggest issue I have with it is, maybe not issue, but probably the biggest annoyance is what it means for treasure chests. Because just like in the first 50 floors of the Forbidden Ruins, every single floor has a treasure chest in it. I don't think there's a whole lot of particularly good treasure in floor the 51 plus, but I mean, it's free treasure. You might as well get it, right? Some of it's good, at least. But the thing is, a lot of the treasure chests are located in like areas you have to jump over a barrier to get to. So if you finish a battle, obviously in the normal kind of dungeon exploration mode, you can't jump over those barriers. So those treasure chests you have to get in battle. So that's something that can easily backfire because the enemies are so easy. It's you have to be a little bit careful to make sure you don't kill them all before you get the treasure chests. Now, you do still have the ability to go up and down stairs, regardless of if enemies have been cleared out or not or yet. So, if you... And the enemies do respawn in this case, unlike in the Sealed Ruins. So if you do miss a treasure chest, just proceed to the next floor and then come back again, and you will be in battle mode again, and you will have the ability to jump back over the barriers and regain access to that treasure chest. So that's something to keep in mind if you're really worried about getting the treasures. Now, as for my actual approach to the Sealed Ruins, I keep thinking of them as the Sealed Ruins, but they're the Forbidden Ruins. It's a little bit different. Like, I kind of change it up a little bit as I go on. To begin with, I went, like, basically as minimal on magic as I could, because it just feels like good practice, and it's kind of... That's, like, the approach that I am used to taking. You just preserve your MP as much as possible on the easy enemies and save it up for the enemies that need it. But it's really not all that important. Like I said, these enemies are easy, so it doesn't make a huge amount of difference one way or another. Now, one thing I should mention about there, before I go too much on the MP point, the floor you just saw a moment ago was floor 60. And that is one of the healing floors. And it's important to note that there's two special statues on that floor. One looks like a goddess or an angel or something, and it's on the right side. And that is a healing statue, which is very important. On the left side is, I forget what it is, some other statue, and it asks, do you want to leave the dungeon? Or something to that effect. And the important thing to note about that is that the answers are actually mislabeled. So if you answer that no, you don't want to leave the dungeon, it will take you out of the dungeon, and you will have to start over from floor 50 again. And I believe that it's that way. I'm not sure, but it might be that way for every single healing floor. So it could be the same for floor 10, and it could also be the same for floor 70. And just as a side note, I don't think I mentioned it up to this point, but there are 71 floors in the Sealed Ruins total. And this episode I'm going to be stopping at floor 70, which is another healing floor. And on the next episode, I will be showing floor 71, which is the sort of boss, or what have you. So just keep in mind that if you actually want to stay in the ruins, then at least on floor 60, you have to say no. Anyways, back to the point I was saying. I started off preserving my MP as much as possible, because it feels like good practice, and but in the end, it just doesn't really matter all that much. These enemies are really easy, and there's a heal point before the boss on floor 71, so I would not worry about it all that much. Like, I began, my methodology when I began with was just kind of avoid using spells altogether with Raijin, because he has not a lot of MP, and I'm going to want to save as much as I can. Gruga doesn't... I don't really care about his MP. Choco, she has a lot of MP, but I've tried to preserve it anyways. Lisa has infinite MP. Arc has regenerating MP, but nonetheless, my methodology was, if it doesn't save me a lot of time, and I'm going to miss the MP, then don't cast that spell. But like I said, that changed later on. I also started out making a point of trying to kill every enemy I could, just because I figured that getting experience was a good idea, but I mean, these are level 50 enemies, so I kind of changed my mind on that as well. In the end, like, the amount of experience level 50 enemies is going to give is really not that much, so it's not really worth it. Like, I don't really go... So, I didn't really end up going out of my way to avoid enemies, but I did... My focus was mainly on grabbing the treasure chest and then getting to the next floor. If there were enemies in the way, then, you know, I might as well kill them, because experience is still good. But in the end of the day, there are much faster ways to get experience, and if I can speed up my way through the Forbidden Ruins, then that's just better for time on the whole. Getting through the Forbidden Ruins fast and leveling up fast are not two things that you can really do at the same time. So I basically just decided that I would focus on getting through here as fast as possible. Well, not really as fast as possible, but getting through here quickly and not going out of my way to kill enemies. If they're in the way, then sure. But as I was mentioning earlier about the treasure chests, the biggest thing that I kind of adjusted my strategy for was chests that are blocked by enemies. Are not blocked by enemies, but by like barricades and such. If I was not able to access, if it's a chest that I can't access just in normal dungeon exploration mode, then I was very careful about what enemies I killed, specifically trying to leave at least one enemy alive until I got the chest. Not that it's in any way the end of the world if I were to miss that chest, because you can go back and almost immediately and get it. This dungeon is a good example, because the location of the chest is such that I wasn't sure if I killed all of the enemies whether I would be located on the right side of the screen, right there, which I don't know if you noticed, but that was an area that was isolated from the treasure chest. There were two staircases, and there was no way to get to the treasure chest without taking one of those staircases. So, yeah. Now, this is floor 69 right here, and I believe the enemies here are still... I can't remember if they're level 52 or level 54, but... they gave me a little bit of trouble just because they dodged and stuff a lot, but the enemies here still are not very strong, so your characters don't have to be particularly strong to get to floor 70, but the actual encounter on floor 70 is a little bit different. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. Treasure-wise, there isn't really anything... I don't think I equipped anything. The most interesting thing I got was a full power fruit that I used on Choco, and some equipment that I'll use for, like, combining and stuff later. Well, there's one robe I got that I might use once I level it up. And I believe that Ruin Axe is pretty good too. But anyways, this is the end of this episode, so we will fight the boss on the next episode. Let's play Arc the Lad 2. Catch you later.